All right, Algebra 1A students, welcome to your video on Lesson 1.5 on adding and subtracting two numbers, potentially positives or negatives. I'm hoping that this video for us is very much so review of things that we already know, adding and subtracting numbers with the same sign or different signs. But I do want you to write down definitely the example problem so that I know that you did watch the video, and show me your work as well. So set up the problem and show me the answer. So most or a good portion of your practice problems for tomorrow are going to be about adding two numbers together, and they could be positive or negative. So a couple rules real quick for adding numbers. When the sign is the same, meaning both numbers are positive or both numbers are negative, both positive or both negative, then it's a simple addition problem, okay? And our answer just has the same sign, positive or negative, as our two things that we're adding together. So when we add a positive 3 and a positive 4, our answer is going to be a positive 7. So positive plus positive makes a positive a little bit bigger. Same thing with negatives. Negative 3 plus negative 4, when we add those two together, we actually end up with a negative 7. Okay? So when we add together two positives, we get a positive. When we add together two negatives, we get a negative. Okay? Two negatives added together gives us a negative. Now that's just addition. It's different when we multiply. But for addition, negative plus negative is a negative. Okay? Now when we have numbers with different signs, meaning one positive and one negative, that's when things get a little bit different for us. Okay? So one positive and one negative means we're actually going to subtract the two numbers, and our answer is going to have the sign of the bigger number. Okay, so here we have a negative 3 and a positive 4. Okay, so forgetting about the negative for right now, 4 take away 3 gives us 1, and because the 4 was the bigger one and it's positive, our answer is positive. Okay. In the same way, if we have 3, positive 3, and a negative 4, 4 minus 3 is still 1, but because our bigger number, the 4, had the negative sign on it, now our answer also has the negative sign on it. Okay, so our answer has the sign of the bigger of the two numbers, and when we have different signs, we're just subtracting. All right, now if that's confusing and you already know how to add a negative and a positive number, then don't worry about that. But if you're unsure, find the difference between the two, means subtract the two numbers and take the sign of the bigger one. Okay, so a negative because it's a negative on the 4, positive because it's a positive on the 4 in those examples. Okay, so I'd like you to try these problems here, A, B, C, and D. You'll notice that A and D have the same sign, B and C have different signs. Okay, so go ahead and try those 4 problems, pause the video, and then come on back and I'll show you what we should get. All right, in letter A, we have a negative plus a negative, so we just add the two numbers together and we have 24, and because both of them were negative, our answer is also negative. So that answer is negative 24. Okay. Now in letter B, negative 11 plus 9, well, now we have a negative and a positive, so I'm going to minus 11 and 9, and I'm going to take the sign of the bigger number. Because 11 is bigger, I'm going to have a negative sign on my answer because the 11 was negative, and 11 take away 9 is 2, so my answer there is negative 2. And when we get to part C, what you should notice is that they are actually exactly the same as B. They've just flipped the order around, the 9 and the negative 11. So it's still negative 11, it's still a positive 9, so I'm still going to subtract the 2 because they have different signs. 11 and 9 give me 2, and a negative sign on the bigger number means a negative sign on my answer. Okay, and then letter D, I have negative 6 and negative 2. Both of those are negative, So I'm going to add them together and make sure my answer is negative. So negative 6 plus a negative 2, 6 and 2 make 8, and my answer is negative. Okay? If you have questions about any of those, please make a note to ask me in class tomorrow. Now, one more thing I'm also going to ask you to do in your practice problems is to subtract two numbers. Okay, now subtracting two numbers is really like adding the opposite of that number. Okay, so let's say I have 3 take away 5. Okay, 3 take away 5. Well, 3 take away 5 minus 5 is really like 3 plus the opposite of 5, which is a negative 5. So I've changed the subtraction problem to be an addition problem, and now I'll use exactly what I did on the previous page. So 3 plus negative 5, which is the same as 3 minus 5, gives me, let's see, they have different signs now, a positive 3 and a negative 5, so I'll subtract them. 5 minus 3 is 2, and the negative sign is on the bigger one, so it's a negative on my answer as well, negative 2. And then when I do subtracting a negative number, 3 minus negative 5, well, subtracting is really like adding the opposite. So instead of saying minus negative 5, I'm going to add the opposite of negative 5, which is now a positive 5. Okay, so adding the opposite also can change a negative sign to a positive sign on the 5. And now I have 3 plus positive 5. Positive plus positive is always positive. 3 and 5 make 8. Okay, so I'd like you to just quickly try this problem. 4.8 minus negative 8.7. So add the opposite, try to figure out what this is really asking you to do, and then use your addition skills from the previous slide and give me an answer for that. Pause the video for a minute, try that problem, and come on back. I'll show you what we should get. Okay, the answer here should be 13.5, and it should be positive because minusing a negative is like adding a positive, so it's positive plus a positive again. Okay, 13.5. If you have questions about adding or subtracting numbers, please make a note to ask me in class tomorrow. Otherwise, that's all I have for you. Have a wonderful night.